Todd, we were just asking Jesse about his habit with the ton. Is that a weird one for you even?
You know what? I never thought of it. I've obviously noticed it, but I haven't thought of the habit or why or anything like that. Everybody has their own unique looks or habits or whatever you might want to call them, but no rhyme or reason for it. It's just what he does. It's a dangerous thing, and teeth, tongue, mouth, lips, but I'm sure not going to go work with him and force him to keep it in his mouth. So, you know, it's just a unique thing.
Maroon looks like he's on a bit of a run again. Is he playing a little better, or is it the puck just going?
Well, streaky scorers, and Patty's been that way. We want to keep him going. Puck's going in the net. He's going there with a little more authority. You know, playing on a different line refreshes some people sometimes. So he's strung a group of games, pardon me, together now. We want him to continue that, and we need some scoring from our wingers. We saw the other day when we got it, it becomes effective for us as a team, and you know, if we can get that creeping back in from all four lines, it'd be great.
Yes, he seems to be getting a bit more time in the power play in recent games. What has he done to deserve that specifically?
He's played well. He's played confident. You know, big test for him was he went dry for 5, 6, 7, 8 games without anything. Was he going to, you know, regress and lose his confidence? I thought he looked very confident the other day. So that tells me he's continuing his growth, and he's able to fight off those negative demons, if you will. You know, and as a result, he gets a little bit more time on the power play, and you know, trying to position him where he can use his shot somewhat. But he's really starting to pick things up. He understands the systematic part of it, and it's been fun to be around the last little bit because he's believing in himself, and everybody else is believing in him.
How close do you feel the power play is to breaking through, Todd? I mean, is it doing everything you want, I guess, except for the end result?
Well, not necessarily, because for me, the power play either has to score or create momentum, and right now our numbers are evident that we're not scoring enough, but it's also not creating a lot of momentum. I feel like it's creating a little more on the road than at home. I think we tense up a little bit. There's a little more pressure here, but we've continually worked at it. We've moved people around. We need to get one, and then guys will feel a little bit better about themselves. But the other thing we haven't had is a lot of power play time. A lot of the chunks of power play that we've had post-Christmas have been you know, 1 or 2 max per game, and sometimes they're segmented with a penalty. Either we're coming off or we take maybe. So it's been a tough go. We haven't had a lot of reps, and when you don't get a lot of reps and you don't score, you feel like you've gone a long, long time without getting the reward.
Not to criticize the referees, but when you're only getting 1 or 2 a game, is that because you're not usually getting into the areas where a team is going to take a penalty on you?
Well, you could argue that, or you could argue, you know, it the other way, where you know, we're not creating enough in those areas to go there, whether it's in and around the blue paint or whatever it might be. We can argue that there's been calls missed, but I'm sure there's been some that have gone our way too. It's just we're not getting enough of the calls. We need everybody to draw more than they take, and right now we've been on the negative side of that ledger.
Todd, sorry, I wasn't here yesterday, but with the addition of Paul on your back end, specifically with the defenseman, you know, Oscar talked about already, just in conversations briefly about, you know, simple plays and moving the puck. What are you looking for him to add in the development of your young defenseman?
Well, the first thing we want him to do is, and he's already done it, he's got a relaxed demeanor to him. We want him to make himself available to the defenseman, in particular, not only here but in Bakersfield. And we want them to feel, they being the defenseman, feel comfortable in talking to him. We want them to converse and talk about situational play, what he felt like when he played. Obviously the game has changed a little bit since then. But maybe some of the tendencies, some of the cues that he used to create, to look for space, to find teammates, when to join rushes, when not to, shot selection. There's a number of ways a skill development coach can help, and it's not just about, hey, you got to pass it this way, you got to skate like this, timing, sense of arriving on time. A lot of things that we feel he can contribute in, and the first part is just creating those relationships with players. That'll be his first go through here, and then when he comes back later on, maybe they've got that relationship and they can share a bit more.
A lot of players the last few years have now hired skills coaches for themselves in the summertime, just work on specific skill development. Do you see him evolving into that with your defenseman over time? 5-10 minutes of practice here or there with a guy just on a specific drill or a specific skill set?
Well, there's potential for that. Practice time is so tough at this time of the year, or during the year, with the mandatory days off, the travel schedule, everything else that's packed into it. You don't get a lot of time, and then when you do get some time, you're often resting your horses. And so we've got to find segments where we can do it. There's opportunities to address individuals in certain areas of their game, yet you don't really get into that competitive environment where you can apply those skills. So it's catch-22. What I like about Paul is that he's developing skills here within our environment. A lot of the skills coaches do a tremendous job. They're excellent at what they do, but they're not always aware of the type of play, the type of identity, the type of system that maybe individual teams are trying to put into play. And sometimes that can be dangerous, yet a lot of the skill coaches do a tremendous job.
There have been some teams on some long runs. You're at 3. Do you sometimes feel like maybe this is a window where you might be able to continue this and push yourself closer?
We sure hope so. That's our group should feel confident. We should feel a little better about ourselves than we did 2 weeks ago. I feel it in practice. There's an energized group right now, but it's sitting there for us. We can't give it back, and have had a tendency during the year to give it back. And that's, other teams get in the way. I've said that many times. Every team in the league is capable of playing hard and stealing games from you. So you got to understand that and not give it back, and that's what our goal will be tomorrow night, and then we'll try and follow it up on Thursday.
Well, in Sekera's case, is this the case he's just got to keep playing, or is it going to be like with so many players next year, you'll see the real?
Well, it's hard
because of his knee injury.
It's hard for Andre. Everybody's 45, 46 games into the season. They're up and running. They have their sense of timing. He's come back in at a difficult time. It's hard to regain all that lost training camp, preseason, regular season, and come back and be the player you were, especially with his injury. You just don't get the time. I look at Joe Thornton. He had the opportunity to heal quick enough to be involved in training camp, and he looks really good this year, where Andre has had to sit for basically, in my mind, 2/3 of the season, because you throw training camp and prep time in. It has affected him. So we'll keep working with him. We've got to remain patient. We've got to show confidence in him. He's a veteran guy. He understands his body. He knows that it'll take some time, but trying to build up his confidence is what our goal is.